part of this conversation to join us. So, Mickey, I learned all kinds of things about you when I was trying to figure out how to introduce you today. I didn't know you grew up outside of Houston, Texas. I mean, I could tell you're a New Englander. I come from St. Louis, so
Okay.
yeah, suburb of St. Louis. So he grew up outside of Houston, Texas, to a loving and affirming family, and he never had to take. I guess he took for granted the roof over his head, right? You just took for granted because it was part of your life. You didn't have to worry about it. And he developed an incredibly deep sense of social justice from his grandmother. What was her name? She's still alive?
She's not, but her twin sister is. Her twin sister is just about to turn 99. My grandmother was Lise.
Mm. So these two lived in a village and that was occupied by the Germans during World War II. And they worked very hard to provide protection and shelter and safety for those who needed it the most. And so Lise was a role model for Mickey, and he developed this sense of justice from a young age, and he's carried it with him through everything that he's done. And that is something that rings true to those of us at Tabernacle, working hard for the people who are most at risk in the world. So he brought that sense of justice making and to his studies here in Boston. He got his degree in urban affairs at BU and a master's in public affairs at UMass. He went to Suffolk Law School. He's a member of the bar. He teaches at BU. In 2006, you started working with Beverly CDC and were instrumental in the merger of Salem and Beverly CDCs. And there are over 300 housing projects, affordable housing projects in and around Cape Ann now. Is that right?
400.
400. Wow.
400.
That's extraordinary and very exciting. And you'll tell us some more about all those as well, at least some of those projects. So this is a gentleman who is also a triathlete, also something I didn't know about you. And he loves dogs. Show us your dog.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we are a church that has gone to the dogs, and many of us have four-legged friends, and so we join you in that great love. So we're excited to hear more about the North Shore CDC and how we might collaborate with you. And we look forward to continuing to build this relationship and learn more about one another. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mickey.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that incredibly personal introduction. I don't know where you found all that stuff. There must have been an interview from me somewhere, posted somewhere about my grandmother, but I appreciate that. Yeah. That's it's very true, and it's always nice to remember that. And it's funny, we just did a staff activity last week or in the last week or two where we all know each other, but we do have a constant influx of interns and fellows, and it's a big group now. And we did a similar sort of getting to know you activity that was focused on why we all do what we do. Because I think we all come from like wildly different backgrounds, and you'll meet Felicia and Eileen today too. But we all have this thread of like really deeply connecting with the work that we do in some way for a variety of reasons. So it was nice to be able to get to know, some of the newer folks on our team in that way. So thank you. And I just want to say thanks too for all of the folks in the Tabernacle community that we've been getting to know over the past so long. I'm not quite sure exactly how long it's been, but a while. And we really appreciate the earnestness with which you have approached this process. It's very serious, and you ask all the right questions, and you've been very patient with us as we try to like move the process forward, but also really try to get it right from the outset. So we're excited about all the work that we've done together so far. I know there's a lot of work left to do, but I think in many ways the hard part's done, because I think we've figured out a way to work with each other and to really lay the groundwork for something that could be, I think, really magnificent. And I appreciate you all also making the time after your church service to do this. We suggested it might be a good idea so that everyone who hasn't been a part of these meetings could get to know us a bit and sort of understand who we are as an organization and where we come from as an organization before we start talking about the nitty-gritty housing development stuff. And I think at this point you've all heard of North Shore CDC, but we wanted to tell you a little bit about our founding. I also, before I get into the organization, actually, also just want to take a minute to introduce Felicia and Eileen. We have such an awesome team. It's the thing that has kept me at North Shore CDC for 15 years as of last week. Hard to believe. So Felicia is our Chief Program Officer, and Felicia's been here 5 or 6 years, 6 years maybe. And Felicia came to us originally to run our youth build program when it was still very much in its infancy. And Felicia had run similar programs, but had a career in community development before that in New York City. And I remember meeting Felicia and thinking, are you sure you're moving to Salem? Like, were you coming from New York? And I think I remember thinking Felicia was hoping that Felicia would be someone who would be with us for a long, long time. And I'm thrilled that she's now been the Chief Program Officer for several years. And in that span of time, I'll brag, I don't think she'll share this, but our youth build program that was in its infancy when it started is now a nationally recognized youth build program. And that's because of Felicia's expertise. He was honored with a national award, and a very competitive one at that, amongst all the youth build programs in the country. So she's too shy to say that herself, but you should know that she's a real rock star, and she's just getting started. She's also really the linchpin behind our work in serving homeless youth. She is a social worker by background, and her and her team really are the core reason why we are able to even think about serving that population, let alone expanding it. So I'll let her tell you more about her passions. And then also I'm going to introduce Eileen Vogel. So all of you who've been working with us know Eileen. She's our senior project manager who's working on this project with me. Eileen's also been around a long time. What, 7 or 8 years? I think 8 years, right?
Probably closer to 8, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Eileen has also a very long, interesting, and different career working in banking and finance, and had worked in community development finance, but not really affordable housing per se.
Right.
And we were connected by a mutual friend because Eileen also lives on the North Shore. And I think I hired you on the spot, if I remember correctly. And
Pretty much.
It's really interesting when Eileen first came to us. At that time, 8+ years ago, we had been talking with North Shore Community Health about creating a joint project for the community health center. And at that time had been focused on a bit of a different site than we are now. And somewhere along the way, we sort of had to hit pause on that project for a while for lack of a site. And Eileen moved on to work on various affordable housing projects over the years. And it's interesting now that sort of come full circle. I think maybe some of you have seen that we're moving forward with a real joint project now with North Shore Community Health. And Eileen is the project manager for the Tabernacle project, as well as the South River project, which includes the health So I'm so happy that we're doing that one as well, and that we're doing it while Eileen and I are still here too.
Yes.
So that
Not that we're going anywhere soon.
exactly. But these things take years, so we better
Oh,
get
yes.
started.
That's right.
And both of these women are an important part of our senior management team. It's about 8. We have 22 staff overall. About a third of us are on the senior team. And these 2 women are 2 of the important members of that team. So I guess, why don't you 2 feel free to introduce yourself a little bit too before we start talking about North Shore CDC.
Okay. Hi. I can start. So first of all, I apologize. I heard all of you talking about the vaccine and everything. I had mine yesterday, so I'm a little bit off this morning. So I'm not going to present as long as I thought I was going to be, but I'm so excited to be here and to because I got involved when the pandemic started. I haven't had the opportunity to meet most of the congregation. I haven't had the pleasure of being at the church while you've had an active scene. I have walked through it and it's beautiful, but this is great to be able to see everything in action and see you all in your spiritual home. It's really exciting, and it's really exciting for me to be part of this project. First of all, I love projects that bring together different kinds of partners, and because we learn so much from each other, and we just all grow so much from these kind of relationships. And also because I've been fortunate enough to work on a project where we had created housing for homeless youth. And it's probably, of all the many wonderful things I've done since I've been involved in affordable housing, this is probably one of my favorites. It's just amazing to see kids who need a good start to life getting that opportunities that they need. So I'm super excited to be working with all of you on furthering that opportunity. And I'm a little bit later to the game of the sort of the affordable housing and the nonprofit world. I was in commercial real estate for a long time, and I always enjoyed it. My father was a real estate person. My mom was a social worker. I leaned a little bit more towards my father in the past, but never quite felt satisfied or fulfilled with just doing straight commercial real estate, offices and things like that. But when I sort of accidentally, and it really was accidentally, fell into the sort of this community work and the affordable housing arena, everything kind of fell together. And I was able to sort of marry both sides of my personality and my interests, and do the real estate work that I so enjoy, but to be able to do it in such a way that I really feel like I'm helping people, making a difference in people's lives, which is, so, as we all know, is so incredibly satisfying and important. It's just been, a wonderful experience for me to work with the CDC. And as I said, I'm super excited about this project because it's such a unique partnership. So we have great opportunity to do something extremely special. So thanks for inviting me to your worship today.
So good morning, everyone. I think Mickey did a good job of pretty much summing up a little bit of our experience. And so I want to say thank you so much for inviting us to your worship experience today. I can tell you, Mickey knows I'm the resident Christian at our organization. And so I truly enjoyed the liturgy today. My church experience is a little different, but all was really well received. And I said, Mickey, this is why they invited us, because it really spoke to the message of the work that we do here at North Shore CDC. So thank you so much. A little bit about my experience. Mickey did share, I originally started my career in Harlem, New York, and I wanted to go into community development work. My family originally is from Harlem, New York. And then also, when I was in college, my senior year, I did alternative spring break in New Orleans a year after Hurricane Katrina. And so the devastation and also the injustice of the different communities and who had lack of access to resources. And I had originally planned on going to grad school for social work for addiction counseling, just because I saw the devastation of substance abuse in communities of color. But once I noticed that there was such larger scale of work that can be done, I wound up going and changing my major from not social work. Well, social work was also always my degree, but going from individual counseling to community organizing. And so my career took off since then. And then my last year of grad school, I did my internship at Abyssinian Community Development Corporation, which was connected to my church at that time. And so I've always been a part of the understanding of it's not just about the work of Jesus being, being Jesus and walking the earth, but also taking action in the work that we do. And so since then, Mickey has welcomed me warmly into Salem, allowed me to be very New York in Salem, which I love. And our youth development work is very much connected to this project that's going to happen. And youth has always been a part of my life. The youth that we serve here on the North Shore, it's very interesting that how we have evolved into this space of youth housing. And we're going to talk a little bit more, but I think that this project is so important right now, especially in this day and age, not just coming out of this pandemic, but even therefore before this. So I'm so thankful that you all are just willing to even listen to what we're talking about, and that this project is something that is starting as a conversation. And I love the community you have amongst yourselves, just listening into like how you all love each other. And I think that's an important start to any project. And so I'll let Mickey take it over from here.
Thank you, Felicia. I would say one of the things that I am most proud about our organization is that we try really hard not to live in complete silos. You'll see as I talk about our work that we do a lot of different things. And part of the function of our senior team is to try to really not have the different programs that we do exist in silos. So I think the work that we're talking about with you all, with housing formerly homeless young people, is like one of perhaps the best example really of how our housing work can really learn from our youth development work and vice versa, and how each one can provide just like incredible value. Most youth service organizations don't have the resources or wherewithal to like create a housing opportunity for the people in their program. And likewise, most housing developers are frankly afraid of taking on really special needs housing. And I think for us, we didn't really blink at that because of the diversity of the sort of academic and professional experience on our team. If anything, it makes us think we should focus on this work and make it really our priority. But let me back up a little bit. So you see on your screen that our mission statement is that we invest in neighborhoods to create thriving communities. And this mission statement is updated, and this is one that came out when we created North Shore CDC a little over 10 years ago now. When Beth mentioned that we had two nonprofits previously, one in Salem and one in Beverly. And when we came together about officially January 2011, but sort of functionally about a year and a half before that, we wanted both organizations and our new organization to be stronger and more sustainable, to be able to do more work in the community, more and deeper work in the communities where we were, and also to be able to think a little bit more regionally and think about what other communities on the North Shore really need community development work. There aren't a lot of organizations like ours. Our vision is that we envision a North Shore where every neighborhood is one of choice and opportunity. And I would say our work is very place-based. Like when we think of everything that we do that in concentrated areas. Salem, historically, that has primarily, but not exclusively, been in the Point neighborhood. We were founded in the Point in 1978. Originally, when we were founded, we were really a community organizing initiative. There was no housing piece at the very beginning, at least in the capacity as a developer. And the folks who came together at that time were a mix of neighborhood residents, business owners. There were people from the faith community involved at that original time. And I think the sense was that the social challenges in the Point were pervasive. that there weren't really constructive ways to address them really. So our CDC and CD's community development corporations around the country, we're all founded in communities with similar challenges, but I always think of it as an action-oriented step within the broader social justice, racial equity. We are, in theory and in practice, a solution, or at least an attempt at solution to some of the pervasive issues that have, made life not as great as it should be. So if we flash forward today, some of the big changes that have happened over the last 40 plus years. In the late 80s, the federal government, by and large, privatized the creation of affordable housing. So for the first time, nonprofits and for-profits could build affordable housing ourselves using a combination of private and federal, and in our case, state resources. So CDCs, by and large, today are all also affordable housing developers. And the quick explanation of that is that in all the communities that we're working in across the country, right, CDCs, one of the linchpin issues is having a safe, decent, quality roof and stable for your family. And it's hard to think about organizing around other issues unless you're making a good, solid attempt at taking care of housing first, right? So CDCs across the country in the late 80s were part of that initial pivot to privatization. Now, if we look nationally, lots of organizations are creating affordable housing. CDCs are only a small part of that. But the housing that we focus on is really important housing, either in neighborhoods like the Point that share characteristics with the Point across, in our case, across the North Shore, but across the country. But we also do special projects like the one we talked about with you all, where we really focus on, as a community, what are the biggest gaps in the affordable housing picture, right? Not what is the easiest affordable housing to get built, right? We want to build housing for folks for whom there really isn't a solution out there. And I think by and large, what you see, if you look at the difference between what CDCs do and what for-profit affordable housing developers do, what they're doing is not a bad thing. It's an important part of the ecosystem. It's just that what we do tends to be a little bit more specialized. We would rather take the time to do the more difficult project if it has that cumulative effect. If over time, I think you would, if you join us on the next Zoom, which I think is May 12th, we're going to go deeper into our affordable housing work and show you lots of examples of our other projects, really break down, what does affordable housing mean and at what income tiers and how does the rents work. And if you're interested in learning more about that, I would encourage you to come then. But I think what you'll find in terms of our overall housing strategy is that we don't do any boring projects, right? They're all interesting and rich, and we've tried to increase the number of very, very low income families that we can serve along the way and create a really nice balance. But I think that's what you'll find is most CDCs are working on very special projects. The other thing about North Shore CDC and a lot of others is that housing, as much as it is often the reason that people might know us, is only a small part of what we do. All of our other programs in the community are, equally important work and very much interconnected. We still have a really great community engagement team. I think our community engagement team now is as strong as, actually, can you stay on that one, Felicia, for a second? I think we have the strongest team that we have ever had in the history of the organization. That is also kudos to Felicia for building that team. And Felicia, do you want to tell the folks a bit about some of our other programs?
Yeah, absolutely. So a part of my role as a Chief Program Officer at North Shore CDC, I have the opportunity of working very closely with all the programs at North Shore CDC. And so our community engagement team really encompasses the opportunity where we connect very closely with the community. One of our primary objectives with that is really making sure that we're hearing from the community, finding out what their needs are, and really assessing to make sure that we're not doing the work that we want to do, but that it's informed by what they need. And out of that, one of our programs, the Family Success Program, we're really working with the community to make sure that they're getting what they need to be successful. Some of that, for example, is we do citizenship classes, we partner with Open Door Immigration Services, we provide financial wellness classes, home ownership classes. For families are in need of housing stability, we make sure that we're helping them create that pipeline where they're making sure where they're becoming self-sufficient, where they're trying to find a job or access to education. In addition to that, we also partner with the Salem Food Pantry every other Saturday within our community space, Espacio, which is on Congress Street. If you ever are able to drive by safely, it's a beautiful space that's open to the community. Right now, because of the pandemic, we have scaled back our services, but people like, we have Mamas Unidas, which is a parenting class, or it's a parenting support group for moms that tend to meet there. And we did some other services and programs there prior to the pandemic. In addition to that, we have our Youth Build program, which probably all this has really stemmed out of. And Youth Build, which I had the opportunity to run the Youth Build program like Mickey shared when I was in New York, and it serves 16 to 24-year-olds who primarily have dropped out of high school for several reasons. And I think often people think about people who dropped out of high school as like delinquents and people who just have had who are troubled kids, right? But the studies show that most people drop out of high school because of issues as far as maybe unstable living environments, right? Or maybe they're an older sibling that's taking care of younger siblings because their parents are overworked or working too much. And most of the young people that come to Youth Build are actually coming to Youth Build to get their high set or high school equivalency diploma. They're coming to get a trade in construction. Our program offers healthcare. And also customer service. And so our young people are coming through our program from 6 months to a year, and they're able to achieve their high school diploma. They're able to receive industry recognized credentialing. And while they're doing all this, they're actually working on building affordable housing, which is pretty awesome. And they're becoming leaders in their communities. And I say leaders in their communities, they're serving their community by providing community service. Every young person in Youth Build, they do 450 hours of community service a year, which means that within a year, someone who technically dropped out of high school, who the world said like, you're nothing, you can't do anything, has proven within a year that they are somebody, they're contributing to society, and they can be successful when given the right tools and resources. And that's because a program like Youth Build is helping to fill those gaps of need. And even when young people are successful through Youth Build, what we found is that 70% of our young people who were in Youth Build were still struggling with some of the basic needs and essentials. And one of those was being homeless or experiencing homelessness. And so this was a chronic issue that we saw when young people were doing really well. In about 3 months into the program, we'd see that they would disappear. And you would think, well, if someone is experiencing homelessness, wouldn't them going to Youth Build be better? No, because they're trying to figure out where they're going to sleep that night, where's the next meal going to come from. And so luckily, Mickey and Eileen were able to really work with the team and try to figure something out. And so in 2017 or 2018, Eileen? I think we started the process for Harbor Crossing.
It opened in 2019.
Yeah, so 2019, we were able to open Harbor Crossing, which is our our building, which prioritizes homeless youth and formerly homeless youth and youth who have aged out of foster care, who are 18 to 24. And so these are youth who we realized that just had no place to go. When you have people who are 18 to 24, our case managers and life coaches were trying to find places for these people to live, right? And so I don't know if anyone here has ever gone through the process of trying to apply for an apartment, which is extremely hard. And so luckily this project was able to provide that space for them. And I just remember our case managers going through that process of trying to find housing for these young people and trying to find resources. So once we were able to get Harbor Crossing online, it was such a great opportunity just to see that some of the young people we've been working with for so long had stability in their lives and that opportunity to thrive. A really good success story that came out of that was we had a young woman who her and her mom had been homeless. Whole family had been homeless for about 3 years. And so they had been couch surfing from home to home. But once she moved into Harbor Crossing, her mom was able to find an apartment that could be able to provide a resource for her and her younger siblings, because she, as an older sibling, was able to thrive while being at Harbor Crossing. Anything you want to add to that, Eileen? I know you're not feeling well, but do you want to add
Oh,
more?
yeah. Well, what I want to say was, anybody who has had kids who have gone through, their own children who have gone through college, or just, gone and moved into their own apartment when they turn 18 or so, realize that even kids who come out of so-called stable environments, it's tough to live on your own. It's the kids make mistakes. They are easily swayed and do something that could be, that's wrong, or they don't know even how to do the laundry and stuff. So, kids who come from a different environment where they haven't had maybe that kind of stability or a parent to guide them, it's really hard for them to turn 18, go out of foster care, and suddenly be on their own and expected to do well and to thrive. So what's great about the program we've been able to sort of develop is that it provides the housing, and we do it in a different way than we've ever done before, because normally for affordable housing we create a beautiful unit and then a family or an individual moves in. But in this case, with our Harbor Crossing, we provided everything down to the sponges, down to the plates, down to the towels, so that we really set the kids up for success. And also, though, provided all sorts of guidance in teaching them how do you balance a checkbook, how do you look for a job, how do you pay a bill, how do you get along with your neighbors. These are all things that, like I said, is not even guaranteed, not even guaranteed for any kid who turns 18 and has to go out on their own, but for someone who hasn't had that kind of family, perhaps, life to help them, or who they can call for questions or for help, it's that much more difficult. So we sort of do this whole wraparound program that provides, sets them up for success, not for failure. I always like to tell this story about when we finish the Harbor Crossing project. Normally, when I do a project, I do everything from all this conversation we've been having now at the beginning phase to I'm there for all the construction, and I on a weekly basis, or sometimes a daily basis, and I'm very, very heavily involved until we literally move people in. But then I step back. In the Harbor Crossing project, it was really exciting for me because I got to literally walk kids through to pick their units. And it was, if there was ever a doubt as to why I do this work, it was made so obvious to me that when you looked at these kids' faces when they walked into these apartments and they were like, this is mine. I mean, I get this. I get to live here. It was like Christmas morning times 1,000. It was really the best thing I've ever seen. And every time I go through a hard spot with work where we're kind of, it's easy to get sort of, these are very long processes. They take a while. There's lots of setbacks. Whenever I remember those, those moments, it reminds me why we do what we do. It's really a game changer for people when they have this opportunity. So it's super exciting.
Thank you, Eileen. And to touch on that, some of the services that Eileen mentioned is that we do have a live-in resident manager who Chris has been there probably for the last 2 years. And he actually is, he's out of commission fire. He used to work for the fire department, but had an injury, and he adds a level of mentorship and support to the young people. And then Hannah, who is our life coach there, she also provides one-on-one assistance to the young people and provides also a level of community, right? And so we're teaching those young people about establishing community, getting to know your neighbor, and providing that kind of resource. And so we have barbecues with them. We went apple picking one year. We did tie-dye parties. And this is something that a lot of them have been missing, is that sense of family and community. And what we also realized, I don't have the numbers in front of me, is that a significant amount of people, and this wasn't done intentionally, that live there are part of the LGBTQ community. And if you hear some of the stories about how their families have disowned them or they've been left out, just of that, left out of that part of the community, it really is almost gut wrenching when you hear their stories. But this is, I think, as we think about this work moving forward and how we can continue to provide opportunities for youth who have experienced homelessness, I think it starts with that sense of making sure that they have the support that they need. And I'm not supposed to talk about all the programs, but I was going by the list, Mickey, so I apologize. But we also do provide small business assistance to immigrant and women-owned community, women-owned and minority-owned businesses. And also our public art and placemaking programs have also really provided a significant level of support and a sense of community in Salem and beyond. And I know we're gonna have some murals going up in Gloucester soon too. Anything you want to add, Mickey?
I guess the only thing I'll add is in line with what you and Eileen were both sharing. One of the things that always makes me happiest about our housing and really kind of amazed is it absolutely is amazing. Like move-in day is the day that we get to celebrate every couple of years when a new project finishes. But like every time I have like a friend or family member visit who isn't, who sort of knows what I do, but they want the tour and we do a drive around and look at some of our old projects, I'm always just amazed by the sense that these affordable housing developments it isn't just a resource for those folks the first day you move in, right? People move up and move on for all sorts of reasons. They move into different housing situations. They kind of graduate to different areas of their lives, but the next folks are right behind them, right? So I'm just amazed that the first project that I worked on was one on Cabot Street in downtown Beverly for very, very low income people too. And I know that building is just packed, thriving 12 years later. And it's, I think that's the really nice thing about it, is that those, 400 apartments that we've talked about, it's, over the next few years, that number is going to turn into 700 and 800. But all of those apartments are resources for generations. We're long-term stewards who keep the affordable housing, and we put systems into place so that they have, the financial resources that the projects need to be maintained properly, and our whole, mindset with construction and building is with that we're going to own these forever and operate them forever. They have long-term, if not permanent, deed restrictions. And, we try to select really high quality building materials because we're going to be the ones living with those materials. So it all has a really nice effect on the quality of life too, that folks are not living with the cheapest possible products. And we care about things like energy consumption because, saving on energy in the long run allows the project to remain even more affordable. So I think that's it's a really nice aspect of nonprofit development.
Can I add something to that, Mickey? I just wanted to
of course.
say that something that was really interesting for me to learn is that people don't understand, just to kind of build on what you were saying, people often don't understand the level of quality that goes into the affordable housing development. People sometimes either equate it with my housing authority, which is a different type of animal. But one thing that's been so fascinating for me is working with our architects who do and contractors who do all sorts of for-profit and nonprofit projects, and to discover how often a market rate project, a very expensive market rate project, has some really lovely finishes, but perhaps because it's for profit, I'm not saying every time, but sometimes the corners can be cut or cheaper finishes might be used. Not only do we require it, but the state requires, really top level of materials that are lasting, that are healthy, that are healthy for the tenants. It's really, our projects are, we might not have the same, marble, but the building materials and the construction and the energy efficiency, air quality are often really higher than you'll find in a market rate project. It was pretty interesting and eye-opening for me to learn that.
Absolutely. So I guess we wanted to end by sharing this short video that we did last year. Like, I think all of us, when we were figuring out how to suddenly exist as a virtual team, one of the things that we wrestled with was, what are we going to do instead of having a big annual dinner? There would be no dinners for 400 in 2020, and I think for 2021. And one of the things that our coworkers who help us raise resources did was create a fall series where we did 4 lunchtime Zooms where we shared a video and honored some of the partners that we've worked with. We do that every year at our annual dinner. And that was the piece that we didn't want to punt until we can have a dinner again. So we found a way to still provide some of those awards, but in the context of virtual sessions. And we had one specific that was related to affordable housing. So we thought it's 3-minute videos that we thought we would share that with you all. And then when that's over, we're all happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Great.
Homelessness is a huge deal to me. My father almost ended up homeless. Went through a real rough ride there when his business failed. And so yeah, it had an impact on me. And I think everybody has the right to a roof over their heads and a clean, safe surrounding.
At the time when, if you remember, you had a lot of 55-year-old men who had high mortgages because they had high-paying jobs with their families who were losing their homes. It was horrible. There was a lot of suicides during that little time, and that was about 10 years ago, of men who were dependent, and my husband committed suicide because he couldn't work. And so it's difficult, and that's why it really means a lot to when you have a sense of security that you know that you're going to be able to stay in your home.
Although based in Salem, the North Shore CDC really embraces all of the North Shore.
Action Inc. is partnering with North Shore CDC to develop a 30-unit mixed-use affordable housing building.
It's been wonderful getting to know Gloucester and becoming accepted in the community there and watching this project. It's a 4-story building. We just finished the 4th story and we'll be starting the interior work, so it's been wonderful watching it grow.
North Shore CDC is an organization that really puts effort into helping communities transform. And for me, it's not just about building buildings, which is so important that we do commit ourselves to building affordable housing, but also transforming the communities in which we put those buildings.
I've been impressed to watch it grow. I've been impressed with Mickey and his leadership and the staff he's grown and the projects you've done. It's been very impressive to watch.
Well, North Shore CDC is trustworthy. I like the way they come in that like a family. They're not coming in to tell us what to do. They come in and say, what can we do?
Single mom with 2 boys, basically facing an eviction, and I was able to afford an apartment through the CDC and was living for 6-7 years with the CDC until I was able to finally purchase my condo.
That's one thing why I'm so passionate about working on real estate and affordable housing, is because it has been the main vehicle for Americans to create wealth. So how can we help people get in that channel, of hopefully building wealth and becoming independent?
We provide an amazing asset to the community of affordable housing, but as I was thinking about it, we really provide hugs around the entire community. We really do wraparound services through Youth Build, through Harbor Crossing, through our community engagement team. I think we try and touch on all the different populations within the Point neighborhood and beyond.
Thank you, Felicia, for handling all of that.
Great.
So if anybody has any questions, we're more than happy to answer what we can. Thank you again for giving us this opportunity.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Mickey?
Yep, Bob.
You guys work with Youth Promise at all? The plumber
I
home?
would say we're allies. We don't have any active, we don't work with them in any active way, but we're certainly all, rowing in the same direction,
Yeah, that's what I think, yeah. So where is your building for youth? You have a building you opened a few years ago, you said, for youth. Where is that building?
It's on Harbor Street.
Oh,
It's got the beautiful red mural on it, right across from the old church. I'm blanking on the name of it, but Joseph's?
Yeah, exactly.
St. Joseph's?
yeah,
Mhm.
St. Joseph's, yeah.
Yes.
And how many kids live there now? We're young people?
16.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
And
what did you say?
we have 16 youth, and we have one live-in resident manager. There's
Uh-huh.
17 units.
Any other questions?
Hi, this is Betsy Bennett, and I'm just gonna say repeat something that I heard that goes around and around in my head. This takes a really long time. That's what I heard from you. and so for those of us who get anxious about taking a really long time, remember, it takes a really long time.
That's I can just speak to that a little bit. I think it is a little bit surprising if you come from a for-profit real estate world to the nonprofit, to see how long it takes, and part of it is because, especially when you're working with a partner and you want to, in our case with the Tabernacle, it's there's a lot of getting to know you and a lot of making sure we understand what you're looking for, you understand what we're looking for, understanding the process. It is a slow process. The Tabernacle is your home, so your spiritual home. So it's not something that we would rush in anyway and right away start developing a program and building it. But the financial side of it is what is surprisingly slow. There is, as you can imagine, so much need for affordable housing in the state. And even though Massachusetts does a good job of providing funds, there's just never enough funds to finance every project that should be built. So it's usually a process of going through a series of rounds. There are annual rounds that we apply for funding, and the state does a good job. They do a what's called a one-stop, so it's really one-stop shopping. But it's a process. You're competing against other projects for funding, and even though you know that eventually you will get funded, it could take a couple of years, and it often does take a couple of years. So yes, it is a slower process than somebody coming in, perhaps building condos, where they can buy it and right away get funding and build it. This is a slower process. I think in our case, it's a great thing because, like I said, we're all getting to know each other. We're developing a program, something that we all want to live with for many, many, many years. But yes, it's not going to be built, even if we all voted and said, let's go ahead with a building. It's not, you will not see it built next year. It will not be that quick, unfortunately.
Elizabeth, this is Brenda. I just wanted to say, I don't have a question. It's just I wanted to say how much I am impressed with these two women and Mickey. I am looking forward to working with them. I am so impressed with their enthusiasm and what they have done with their work, and I am looking forward even more so since I've met you two women for this project, because you really have inspired me getting involved in it. And in the case of your your public art. I am so impressed and amazed by the artwork down at the point. It's absolutely gorgeous, especially the mural of the elephants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
But I
great.
am looking forward to, your enthusiasm has really made me feel even more confident about this project.
Terrific.
Elizabeth, I have a comment.
Yes.
I think this partnership is very exciting. I think what I heard that I've been feeling, it's for generations to come,
Mhm.
serve people in our community that are the ones that most need it.
Mhm.
I applaud your work. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Any
Hello.
other?
Yeah, hi. This is Mike. I was just asking about I think what you're doing is absolutely fantastic, absolutely wonderful. I think the need obviously is there, right? Right now, what was the idea for the church as far as how many units would you be able to do here?
The number that I have heard discussed most frequently is 61 units, 61 studio apartments. Is that right, Mickey? Eileen?
Yeah, is that right? I guess in my mind it was 60, but
Right, it's
I think we had,
approximately 60, 61. Yeah.
yeah,
The,
all of the planning that we've done has been centered or somewhere around that 60 number. And truthfully, we've spent a lot of time planning on all of the like non-residential space, all of the program space. That's really been the bulk of our work over the past few months. And we've, I think once all that is situated and we're confident of like what it's going to cost and how it's laid out and how it would function, then I think we would return our attention to the apartments and really, flesh those out and see what, not only what will fit, but like what's the best layouts for them. And, we haven't admittedly spent as much time.
Right. And I believe that we were discussing something like 30% of the units going towards formerly homeless youth. So not the whole house, but a significant part.
Right, right. They would be fully affordable. And so even the units that are not youth will be for low income adults. But 60 homeless youth might be a bit much in one location. So it is nice to have a mix of ages and people learning from each other. And we think is probably the best. And I think that we're still, as Mickey said, a little bit, we haven't focused a lot of time yet on the residential because we know how important the church worship space is and how your sanctuary and how comfortable you want to be with that. And we totally get that. So we really have focused and try as much as possible on that first. But the majority of the funding we get is for the housing. And certainly there's a number of units that makes it most cost effective for us. If we've done smaller projects in the past and you do almost the same amount of work for many fewer units, and you don't always get another opportunity at the, to crack that nut. So the best thing for us is to put in the right number of units. In this case, the place where the units would go is sort of back on the back of your property. So it's not going to overshadow the church, but it does have the possibility of providing maybe up to about 60 units, which we think would be a good number. But I'm sure that number will change. It probably wouldn't be more than that. It might be a little bit less as we work with our architects to really figure out what best fits on that site.
Right.
You're saying 60, 60?
Yes.
60.
Wow.
I think it's great, and I think the ideas are wonderful. I think as a church, I feel like the church might need to make some decision. I mean, I know we're not there yet, but this whole process came about because we were having issues with, you know, membership and money. Let's talk about money. Hey, and now this year we've got, you know, 5 new members. The momentum has changed a lot. So I think that we as a church need to think about what this project could do and mean. And what I'm saying too is I think that this relationship that we're having should go on and on and on, even if we don't do anything here, because of course there's so much going on with the state side of things, and the city of course is interested in doing this kind of stuff. So I would just throw that out there.
Great.
Because it's a great idea, no doubt.
Super. Thanks, Mike.
So this is Joe, and the question I've been most asked over the last couple of months from our congregation is, what exactly do you mean by affordable and low income? And they were asking specifically in terms of like annual income. What kind of annual income would fit into those categories?
For the residents.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess my answer where I would say we'll provide a lot more detail on that is come to May 12th, because we're going to do a whole deep dive into income and rents and restrictions and all of that. And I don't have the income chart at my fingertips at this very moment, but I'll tell you this. The federal housing department sets median, like average incomes for every corner of the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for Salem, I believe the number for the average income in the North Shore for a family of 4 is something like 84,000. I might be a little bit off on that, but not way off. And the way housing programs are structured is there are different housing projects serve different income tiers, right? Some housing projects serve people at 80% of that median income, some serve 60%, some serve 50%, and some serve 30%, right? So the lower down percentage you go, the lower income family you're serving. And in this, our focus for the Tabernacle project has been studio and mostly, I think all studios actually. And our focus has been on a combination of 30% and 50%. So I think this is one area where I can't say is definitively decided, but in the planning work that we have done, I think we've assumed about half of the apartments serving 30% of median income and half at 50. So I don't have exactly those numbers, but I promise you we will have that like very detailed on 12th. And visually, we'll send that out afterwards so that you have, whatever presentations we do. The one today too, we'll be happy to send you if you want to send that out to anyone who couldn't come. And same with May 12th. Make that time. I think we're going to record these too.
Yes.
So that if you have parishioners who, I see you are.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So if you have folks who couldn't attend for whatever reason, you can watch it after. And I know it's a lot of jargon, but that's sort of the reality that we live in. And I would say, like, of all the housing programs that are out there, serving folks at 30% of median income and to a slightly lesser degree, 50%, that really is folks for whom there's no market opportunity. There are not market housing solutions. So, what happens? People end up living in unsafe situations, really poor quality housing. That's a big one. Obviously homelessness. And homelessness isn't just living on the streets, right? It's living in shelters, it's living with friends and family in temporary unprotected situations that are like not good for either side. It's, you name it. Like there are all sorts of like layers and shades of gray of homelessness. And when you're living below 30% of median income with no supports, that's really where we mostly find either in some degree of homelessness or at risk of it. So that's been the big focus of our work on this project. And that is the income tier that we serve for the other project that we've been talking about on Harvard Street, which serves other.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for taking time during the weekend on a Sunday to come to church and to share this information with us. I think we're all moved and inspired by what you're doing. So I'd invite everyone to come to the next meeting, May 12th, like Mickey said, at noon. And the church office will be sending out the Zoom link to everyone. This will be available if you are in touch with folks in church who didn't have an opportunity to see this. Please let us know, and we'll be happy to share this with anyone. And as you have questions that come up in the next few weeks, please get in touch with me, with Joe, with Beth, with Bob. We're happy to answer questions moving forward. All right. And, you know, I just want to ask Mickey, are you trying for the Jesus look here?
You know, if you can't grow your hair out during a pandemic, when can you?
When can you? That's right.
Felicia called me an apostle. I thought that makes me laugh every day thinking about that.
There you go. Well, it works for us as a spiritual community. We like the look.
Yeah.
All right. Amen. Blessings to all of you. Anything else before we close? Okay. Thank you. And peace.
you.
And see you Sunday, and see you on May 12th. Thanks
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.